coming to directness of now. There is nothing more obvious than now. There is nothing more obvious than exactly what is presented right here for you. There is nothing more obvious than some thoughts arising in your mind. There is nothing more obvious than some emotions being felt. There is nothing more obvious than this body and environment. There is nothing more obvious than your awareness, you being conscious here in the now. It is only possible to overlook that which is obvious. And that is what majority are used to doing, overlooking. In other words, ignoring that which is obvious right here, right now. This obviousness is not a single moment verification. It is a way of being. A way of being in this direct obviousness. So even if there are processes happening in you, for example, a process of understanding, it is obviously so. It is obviously happening, the process of understanding here now. Directness of now is inescapable. It is not a fantasy of some heavenly realm. It is not a fear of something unwanted. The liberation is more solid. Consciousness is more solid. It is, we can say, that obviousness itself, that clarity itself. It is not what we are obvious about, not what we are clear about. It's not about wanting to change your thoughts or to prefer some nicer emotions and to have more pleasurable bodily experiences. The liberation is to be in that obviousness, clarity of what is now. So that is what is directness. And the causality, so to speak, the causality arises because of ignorance of obviousness, because we ignore what is presently here, or we can say avoid or try to escape. And that's where conditions arise. When the obviousness of now becomes ignored. That is how the causality arises, the famous Buddhist concept of cause and effect. that if you're not in the obviousness of now, then you are in the cause and effect. And therefore you can be chasing your thoughts round and round and round. And you can be trying to harmonize every single feeling, every single emotion. You may try to harmonize every single energy, and that is a full-time job to try to harmonize all ever-changing existence. So causality is we may say inquiry in how things work, how the universe works. But enlightenment or liberation is inquiry into what is, and what is solid, what is present, what is right here, and what is verifiable, and what is essentially obvious and immediately here. So that is the obviousness itself. It's the directness of now itself. And you may go into your thoughts and try to understand what I'm saying, but I'm inviting you not into understanding, but into recognition of obviousness of now. That this now is immediately here. In an instant, all is here. There's not even an instant because it is already here. And whenever you notice a thought arising, noticing a thought arising is a process, isn't it? A thought arises, it arises. It obviously arises. You notice your thoughts, you are obviously noticing your thoughts. So what is prior to any single action that you can ever do? Obviously being here, obviously being aware already. And when the action arises, then you go into this action and then you do something. Even the famous being, it's also an action of being. Yeah, what we usually call, I am present now. Of course you are present now, it's obvious. Yeah, so this beingness still has a certain duality, because obviously you are. And if you feel like you are, you say, I feel present. Obviously, there is an action of feeling that you are present. There is an action of being. So even being is in awareness, in the now. It has a lot less action. Usually it doesn't have any thoughts, any sensations, like emotions and all sorts of energies, but essentially even the presence itself is a, we may say, a still action of stillness, action of being still, or action of being action of being. And before that, what is prior to that, what is more fundamental, is obviousness, directness, now. And that is inescapable. That's the good news. You can never escape consciousness. You can maybe fantasize on something and then draw your attention into those dreams to feel more maybe secure or more cozy or more private in your own dreamland. But still you cannot escape consciousness because you are aware of yourself being secure and safe in your dreamland and enjoying your privacy in your own created privacy. So any action that one takes is inescapably in consciousness, and therefore liberation itself is coming back to that closest ever thing, which is consciousness, which is closer than closeness, which is more intimate than even a feeling of intimacy, which is more direct than any distance, which is more obvious than anything in the world. So therefore the invitation tonight is to recognize this obviousness of now, directness, inescapable awareness. And whatever ways you're drawn into condition, whether thinking, being drawn into thinking, drawn into feeling, into emotions, into bodily sensations, the best way is to allow this drawing to happen and to simply observe that from this directness of obviousness, you then are being drawn into a certain condition, and the best way is to observe how you are being drawn and to bring the light, so to speak, into that condition, to see that, for example, you were preferring your privacy over the nakedness of consciousness, or you were preferring the safety instead of the openness of consciousness. So there is a certain condition that obviously you are keeping, whether consciously or unconsciously, whether you understand or not, but the condition is being kept by you, by nobody else actually. So it is only yourself that you would be keeping a condition, and in some ways knowingly or unknowingly avoiding consciousness itself, since it's obviously present or you're obviously aware. So this is the invitation to the obviousness, directness of now. And we may say that is Zen, isn't it? It's just another word. Zen is being in the now, is being obviously here, aware. And that's where all these famous stories arise of Zen, of how it's obviously seen how the mind is tricky, and all these funny stories arise, of how the mind assumes and imagines things, and a Zen teacher always just directly kind of hits with the truth, and that's the essence of Zen, and all of these books and texts of the stories, that the truth is so obvious and it's so close that it's striking. It's called a Zen stick. I remember one story that two a Zen student was walking in a garden with the Zen master, and then he was asking the teacher, so I feel so close to Zen, but there's just something there. There is just something. It's so close, but I can't get it. and the Zen master took off his sandal and he slapped with it to the face of the student, and the student awoke. So it's, maybe that was what was needed for that student particularly, just to get a little slap of awakening, to recognize that this kind of slap, and it's maybe it kind of disturbed and awakened the mind, that it's obviously here. The Zen is obviously here. What are you thinking about? What are you waiting for? So yeah, I read this story some long time ago, and I was like, that's a funny way of awakening. um, of course, there are many other stories, and I would like to share the way of softness. The way of softness. Let me just find it. So once a young karate student confronted the old Tai Chi master. "Old man," he called, "I hear you tell your Tai Chi students that the way of softness is better than the way of strength. Are you willing to prove it?" And the young man took a defensive pose. The old Tai Chi master simply smiled at him with a large, toothless grin. "What are you smiling about?" the young karate student demanded. "I am merely proving that softness outlasts hardness," replied the Tai Chi master. "My teeth were all very strong, but they were hard, and they are all gone now. My tongue, however, is soft, and as you can see, it still works very well." The young man relaxed his pose and stared at the Tai Chi master, not knowing how to respond. The old master bent down gracefully to pick up a piece of sand from his sandal and continued. "Where will your body be at my age when you follow the way of strength and hardness instead of flexibility and softness?" With that, he again smiled widely and walked away. Yeah, so you can see that the way of softness and is a way of balance, so to speak. So the mind really needs to soften a lot before it can meet this directness. Yeah, if the mind is stiff and hard, then it will not last in the obviousness, because another stiff idea will come up and will grab your focus. So softening the mind is one of the important things of meditation. Softening the mind, which of course are thoughts, emotions, everything where the mind is sticking, to soften all these spots of the stickiness of the mind, and of course all the mental structures and rigid beliefs and ideas, because it's not gonna last. Yeah, because the strong mind is stiff, and it's closed, and it's tensed, and it cannot allow the truth of every moment to arise. So when the mind is soft, it's more open, and with that softness and openness, then the truth can penetrate easier. It can be seen easier until you are ready to completely let go. To completely let go of the need of the mind. Yeah, so many of seekers are ready to kill the mind, you know. You know, I'm ready to destroy the mind, to kill it, to chop it, and you know, they're still holding so many rigid, strong beliefs, isn't it? So you have to really soften up. You have to really get rid of those extremities and to recognize that even the need to kill something, which is your own mind, is still a need, and therefore there's holding of something. So the best way is to soften and open up more any rigidness, any strength of the mind, so that you can let go. You can see the unnecessity of the mind, that you don't need anymore the mind, even the need to kill the mind. And on my path, I had a laser sharp focus, being a triple Taurus. So my will and my mind was like, I would say, not even like a Taurus, but more like a train, you know. I had such a immense strength that my will and my focus of the mind was like a train, you know. It was so strong, you know. And it did serve a purpose to inquire deeply into the nature of truth, and to really dig deep into all the Buddhist philosophies and non-duality philosophies, and of course then I realized many years ago that it served its purpose. You know, this quality of strength has served its purpose, and then it was time to embrace softness, and that became a very big opening, and a very big way of deepening. So the way of softness is we may say the way, and one of the important ways of Buddhism. And in Buddhism, they speak a lot about, fundamentally, about the middle way. You know, sometimes you do need to focus on things, because otherwise you will be loose, and your mind will grab you wherever, you know, like a jumping monkey. But then you need to be soft, so that you're not controlling every moment. And how can you? I mean, you can only control whatever you can control, you know, maybe where your hand moves or where your tongue moves. But many people can't control their tongues anyway. So if you really examine control, there's like so little that you can actually control. Even if you think that you're controlling the whole universe, it's absurd. You know, you're only controlling your ideas about controlling the whole universe. So upon examining the control itself, you will see that, my goodness, you can't control anything really. You can only allow it. You can only observe it, and you can only be aware of how the universe is already managing everything. And therefore your ideas about control are actually interferences of the natural way. Yeah, just interfering of what is natural. And therefore these control mechanisms are causing more suffering and trouble to your own self, eventually or evidentially. So that's about the control. Right. There are a couple of quotes I would like to go through, and then we can do a meditation together. So one of the quote is from Alan Watts, and it goes like this: trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You can try to bite your teeth. You may bite your tongue, but not your teeth. So you cannot ever define yourself. You may define your physical appearance to a minimal degree. You know, even your physical appearance, probably you would just say, I look charming, or I like myself, or whatever, you know, but you wouldn't be able to define every skin texture, you know, every hair on your head. You know, it's definition is so limited to the actuality of allness. So just like trying to define a tree, that this is a tree, but not really seeing or meeting the tree. So a definition is a label. Yeah, a label is already kind of a dead end, and definition is a narrow street, and the isness is infinity. Yeah, another quote is, normally we do not so much look at things as overlook them. So I spoke a little bit about that most often people overlook the isness. Yeah, that's what mostly happens. Mostly you simply look at conditions. You know, you look at thoughts which are conditions, at, you know, bothering thoughts, which is a condition. You look at uncomfortable feelings, which is a condition, and you overlook the truth, the awareness itself of where thoughts arises, of where condition arises. If you observe where condition arises, obviously here, obviously in me, and then the next step is obviously that I'm holding it somehow, usually unwillingly, and there is usually a certain reason why you're unwillingly holding something. And the usual answer is because I didn't know any other way, or I had no strength, or support, or ability, or grace. Many reasons can be. So most commonly people overlook awareness. Yeah, that's what usually happens. And the last quote is, a scholar tries to learn something every day. Yeah, that's what happens at universities. And a student of Buddhism tries to unlearn something daily. Yeah, so in our educational system, it's like stuffing the chickens, you know, stuffing the turkey for the Thanksgiving Day. And Buddhism, it's unlearning something. It's unlearning all these ideologies, ideas, and concepts, beliefs, freeing yourself, liberating yourself from all the baggage. As Ramana said, you are already on the train, so why hold your luggage on your shoulders? So the same way is you are already in the now, so why hold all the conditions on top of your head? Why hold all the stuff in you? Because it's heavy, you know, it's and you can't do it so long. This is why the body is suffering. You know, accumulated emotions, of course, are unhealthy to your organs. Accumulated rigid belief systems are clogging your neuron pathways and dulling your brain. So the physical body is obviously suffering by all the extra luggage that you carry. And therefore, a path of liberation is to unlearn and unload all that you carry with you moment to moment. Yeah, that is very liberating. Okay. There's one more little paragraph I would like to read about suffering. No matter how far out on the sea of suffering we've sailed, all that is required is to turn towards awakening. It's never too late, but it takes that turning, and no one can do that for us. The first noble truth of Buddhism is called life is suffering. And it's a doctrine that has caused innumerable Western practitioners a good deal of bafflement, dismay, as well as suffering. Like, how can Buddha say the first thing that life is suffering? You know, that's like demotivating right away, you know. But at least until it becomes apparent that the point the Buddha was trying to make is not life is a drag and then you die, which would be ridiculous, but rather the doctrine he articulated is the third noble truth, that there is a path out of suffering. In other words, what the Buddha actually came for was to liberate us from suffering, certainly not to burden us down with more of it. And nevertheless, it's a key point of practice to be willing to look unflinchingly at our pain, to learn to accept it and to work with it. And life inevitably involves some pain, but what we discover in the practice of Zen is that much of our suffering is actually caused by trying to avoid it and not accepting our circumstances and reaching for outside sources of gratification to distract ourselves. That is the suffering, says Buddhism, that we can do something about it. So in Buddhism, you know, it's one of the first things you learn, that the suffering exists, and you need to understand the nature of it, because otherwise it will come and you will not know what to do with it. And the same thing about death. One of the key pillars of the Buddhist teaching is dying, the teachings of dying, how to die. Because in the Western world, it's a big taboo, you know, like everybody wants to ignore the fact that, you know, one day we'll all go. And everybody tries to even hide it, you know, this fact that dying exists. And in the East, it's very nice, actually. You know, we've been to Bali many times, and India, that they make a whole ceremony and procession, and it's even sort of a celebration, you know, when somebody passes away, and it's a beautiful thing. And And why not prepare for it? It would be so nice that, you would plan even for yourself, and you would plan it in the way you want it. And then you would know that, oh, that's my time now. I'm going to have a beautiful celebration happening. So it doesn't catch you unexpected, you prepare for it, you know it, and then you prepare as much as you can, of course, in a relative way. But the biggest preparation is inside, of course, and in awakened state, um, dying does not exist as such, because it is simply giving up the clothes, taking off your shirt, and as many sages say, I'm never moving anywhere, and I'm not going anywhere. So that means that consciousness is here, it has been here, and it always will be here. And if the apparent body decays and the time is up for biological functions, and it's for the form itself. So it's like giving up the clothes. So now let's dedicate some time for practice, for a meditation, and we will be going step by step into the directness of now, into the obviousness of now. And it's not a regular meditation that where you kind of doze into a peaceful space and you kind of sleep for half an hour and feel more relaxed and refreshed. No, this is a practice of coming to directness, coming to obviousness. So try to be awake. Yeah, try to be awake and not to get drawn into any particularities, into any particular spaces or places or as such. Okay, so you can make yourself comfortable, and let's take a few moments to slow down. A few moments to slow down and to feel your body. You can feel your chest, you can feel your belly. You can feel your hips. Feel your shoulders. You can relax your shoulders. If there are any thoughts, you can bring your attention to your breath. So to relax any disturbances, any particular focus on understanding or thinking, into a simple breathing, simply feeling your chest, your belly lifting up and down. And very slowly you can notice, you can observe what is your focus engaged with. Is there a particular wanting or avoiding, not wanting. You can relax your third eye. There is more softness. You can notice any distance. And you can notice that you are aware of that distance as well. It is a soft awareness of this obvious present moment experience. Whatever you can do and whatever you cannot do, you can simply softly observe in the soft awareness. There is nowhere to go. You can observe that in soft awareness. anywhere that your focus would travel into the mind or energy or spaces, you can observe in the soft awareness to close the gap. All that you do, all that you ever can do is observable in a soft awareness. All that you can do and all that you cannot do is observable in a soft awareness. Even if you say, I cannot stop my mind or I cannot do this or that, is observable in a soft awareness. So you can never escape the awareness itself, but you can only ignore it for a while. You can only overlook it for a while. And everything that you have ever done in your whole life was always lived in awareness. You may have not noticed it simply. And I invite you to remind you to observe the present experience in the soft awareness, even if for a moment, seeing directly that this is my present experience. It is a clear moment, direct and obvious moment. It is an always loving invitation to come back to your soft awareness. And to lovingly acknowledge every moment that it is so. I am aware and this moment is so. You can also devote yourself to awareness as the path of the heart, as a way of surrender. As a way of receiving grace. Whenever you feel that you cannot do something to reach God, consciousness, self, Zen, divine, you can devote yourself to awareness. You can call it Krishna awareness, Shiva awareness, Jesus awareness, Buddha awareness, or you can call it awareness itself. And therefore these forms of sages have served you to have a personal connection, have served you to associate with your way of divine. It has served you in a personal way, in a middle way. And at the end, you need to let go of any form and shape and connection, because awareness is here and it's absolute. It includes all the forms of all the sages. And it is no other than yourself. This awareness is no other than you, unconditioned you, the pure you. For those who are ready, you can slowly start coming back into awareness, or coming back from meditation. There is nowhere else I invite you but home, to your own beautiful, luminous, loving self. The closest heart, the clearest mind, the most divine spirit, your own aware self. Already conscious, already aware, already always here. Okay, we have a bit of time for questions, inquiry, sharing. So who would like to be first? Feel free to unmute and simply, okay, Janine, yes?
Hi, Mindo. Since the spectacular retreat that we had, there have been so many wondrous changes in my life. It's just amazing. And today's meditation, I stayed in thankfulness, just total thankfulness. It was just, I was thanking all of the beautiful, radiant beings that are around us, that are helping this consciousness shift in this galaxy, or however big it gets. I don't know that part, but it's just oh, my heart is just so big. It just feels so good. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, much gratitude, much gratitude. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much, Janine. And yeah, it's a beautiful reminder of even, I just recently posted a little reminder about gratitude for small things, even for little successes, you know. You wake up in the morning and you know you can be grateful for everything that it's right here, and even you know, little moments, you know, and maybe you just helped someone to you know, just with your smile, or you gave them, you know, a turn at the queue, or anything. And it's not even important that maybe they might not appreciate it, but it is your growing your gratitude. It is your appreciation of your present moment, for no matter how ordinary it may be, no matter how mundane and ordinary something is, with the gratitude it's transformed into love, essentially into the heart and into the self. So gratitude is one of the biggest doorways to God, to self. It's the biggest opening of the heart. Yes, very, very good. Just the other day I had a conversation with someone about you know, a bureaucracy in Maltese islands, that every small thing is such a, you know, difficult path of bureaucracy, and you know, we recognize that even if today, you know, you managed just to show up in the office and just to ask the right question and get the right answer, that's already a success. It's a step forward. So no matter, you know, what is the objective or goal or aim, you need to celebrate even small successes, even small steps. You know, and it's a beautiful practice of patience, appreciation, gratitude, because everything is a small success, and no matter, you know, what happens, it's part of the journey, it's part of the path, evolution, growth, and essentially as expression of self, of divine, of appearance in the universe. So it all has a purpose, whether we know it or not.